Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm Enfuego here, and I welcome you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. That's Rizzle, y'all. Just call me Fuego for short. And this is going to be another rapido review. Saturday. Yeah, I often call these SHITURDAY reviews, but this one isn't necessarily absolute crap. But it definitely was not particularly funny when I was quite amused by the trailers, and I am a big fan in the stuff that I've seen of our lead actress. So this is just one of the worst things that I watched this past week, so I had to at least talk about it here on my personal channel. This is for a recent comedy that came out earlier this year and just hit select home release. It's at Redbox, and I know it's streaming and stuff like that, but this is Buffaloed. Yeah. Takes place in Buffalo, New York. It's starring Zoe Deutch? I don't know. She is Leah Thompson's daughter. She was hilarious in Zombieland Double Tap, pretty much stole the show in that. She wasn't bad in Vampire Academy. I wasn't like the biggest fan of that or anything, but she was solid there. She was recently in The Politician, Ryan Murphy's Netflix thing that was done. So, I mean, she's charming. She's funny. She has the capability, and she does all she can in this film, I think, to make it an enjoyable experience, but it's really the lackluster writing and just the lack of laughs, really, that derailed this from being anything memorable, and yet solid cast too. I mean, I don't hate on Jai Courtney as much as a lot of people. I mean, granted, I wasn't the biggest fan of him in some of the action vehicles and stuff, but he had solid enough comedic timing, even something like Suicide Squad, as Boomerang, he was one of the better aspects of that in a smaller role. He's shown me here and there that, much like even Chris Hemsworth, I mean, as far as like comedic timing goes for a dude, he's playing it pretty straight in this, though. And so, essentially, Zoe Deutch's character is this girl who figures out the hustle very, very quickly because she's very smart and she's slightly nefarious and calculating and stuff like that. So she ends up in jail after she realizes that her dreams of college and, just doing all these big things with her life are probably not going to pan out. And so she's got scheme after scheme, and she ends up getting thrown in prison for a little while. If I remember correctly, it was because she was selling counterfeit tickets to a Buffalo Bills game, and I mean, they're diehard sports fans in Buffalo, even though they've been kind of long-suffering at times. They did have a decent season this past year, which I'm sure a lot of people were super stoked about. But nonetheless, she ends up in the clank for a bit. And she stands up to this bigger girl who's beating on her at times and stuff. And so after she gets out, she's trying to figure out what the hell she's going to do with her life, But once again, she's very sharp and very smart and very calculated and trying to figure out, what the next just step in. I mean, does she rehabilitate, then try to play it straight and, I don't know, get away from the crime and the bad shizzle, or is she just going to go right back into it, right back into the fire? Mom is played by Judy Greer, who also does a good job in this, I must admit, but it segues into her becoming basically somebody who is like a debt collector, and she rises within the ranks very quickly at Jai Courtney's place, but then she decides, after getting kind of screwed over by him a little bit, she wants to go off on her own and start her own debt collection agency, and she amasses a very boring, one-dimensional, stereotypical crew of peeps to work at this hair salon that she basically retrofits into a call center. And so there's this supposedly religious guy who's just kind of a quacky schmuck dude who is, he spouts scripture, but yet he's definitely not like living the walk of Jesus kind of thing, and that's supposed to be funny. The laughs don't hit. There's a former prostitute, this older aging woman who has definitely been around the block quite a few times. Her jokes don't land. I mean, really, the entire supporting crew of her people. You said there was going to be pizza and pop. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. The jokes don't hit, and especially as it tries to segue into more dramatic territory, that's where it becomes even more boring. The little love subplot that we have in this with, ironically, she gets involved with the guy who prosecuted her the first time she was going to prison, and he's trying to, like, you know, get her to turn her life around and stuff, but she's still doing all of her bad stuff on the side. He doesn't approve. And all of the layers, so to speak, that they try to weave around and implement within this, they just, it feels like lazy writing a lot of the time. And once more, Zoe does all that she can to, she's the star of the show. She's the only thing memorable and interesting about this, but even that is me stretching, grasping at straws, trying to say a lot. This is, I mean, it's just a pretty dull, boring movie. I mean, she has this brother who owns a sports bar, and she just really, she's supposed to be this character who makes mistake after mistake, and the people who love her suffer because of it, and yet those emotional beats don't hit the way they intend to in that slightly more dramatically themed third act, as the tension between her and Jai Courtney's guy escalates, and then some of the choices that she makes at the end with trying to save her own skin and whatnot, it's just, I don't know. There's films like this where the character is relatively despicable, and you're supposed to just, they're just the lovable, you know, kind of shithead, so to speak. I mean, the film that I constantly point out to because it was one of my most hated of last year, I think I put it as my worst film of 2019, and that was the Matthew McConaughey movie where I think it was called Beach Bum or something like that. It was from the dude who did Spring Breakers and a few other films. It was one of the most aggravating movies that I saw all of last year. This is not to that level of just, God, this is absolute shit, but it's really not that far off, at least as far as, you know, the schmuckty lead, who you're supposed to just be enamored with them and root for them even as they just continue making mistake after mistake after bad decision after bad decision. There's certain character arcs that really work, and in this film it just didn't, and I don't know, that's... I watched a lot better stuff this past week, but most of it was horror themed, and so you have to head on over to the other channel to check that stuff out. But if I'm just going to give a final verdict, if you're just bored and you're like, oh, I've got some Redbox points, you know, maybe I'll rent this Buffaloed movie. The trailers actually kind of charmed me a little bit, I must admit, but the jokes were not prevalent. The act gets really old really quickly. It drags significantly. It doesn't do anything particularly unexpected. It was just a very, very forgettable film, and so that's why this is a 2 out of 5 for yours truly. This is a Malo film. Sorry, everybody, but yeah, it would probably be more like a 2.5 star, I will admit, and that's just solely based on Zoe and the fact that, you know, once again, she gives it her all here. She tries, but, you know, she's at the mercy of a pretty craptastic script. So, hey, what do you say? But I've been Jaime En Fuego. Y'all can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on the YouTubies. And yeah, everybody, I do at least an episode every day, most days, occasionally a holiday or something else, you know, comes into play, throws stuff off with the very scary way that the world is right now between COVID and, you know, just the rightful champions of protests and all kinds of other things. There's been certain social media blackouts and certain creator blackouts on YouTube, and with good reason, because there's bigger, more important things for us to take consideration of, obviously. But when there is content on here, which is still very frequent, it's everything from, you know, indie comedies to Oscar darlings to, you know, Star Wars coverage. I geek out on my comic stuff, even though the industry is more or less at a standstill right now as far as creating new stuff because of a lot that's going down. But, you know, a like, a share, a subscribe here on my smaller, you know, solo channel is supremely appreciated. If you're into Spooktacular, Scarific, that's the aforementioned other channel, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. That's where I am a co-producer and one of the lead hosts, myself, showrunner Cecil Laird, Marsha Parker, Susie Von Slaughter, Robert Toole, and a few rotating guests that jump on. We do reviews of film, television, video games, comic books, novels. I do a weekly Stephen King show called Hail to Stephen King. video game Let's Plays, unboxings, trailer reactions, a true smorgasbord of the spooktacular. So yeah, that's about the extent of things over there. But like, share, subscribe here. Once again, a grande gracias, supremely appreciated. So I'm Enfuego. Y'all have been badass rad status, and until the reel of cock comes around once more, hasta luego, Cinemigos. Constant readers and viewers alike, say thank you for your taking a little bit of time at my destination here. But I'm hopeful that we share more of this palaver sooner rather than later. But hopefully next time it'll be about a better film. Be forewarned, don't get buffaloed.